report on this. And I'd like to welcome Roger Scott to Coffee with a Purpose. Roger is the fourth, I was going to say fourth and last, but certainly not last. The candidate running for the open select board seats, of which there are two. We've been able to hear from the other three candidates earlier, and we'll save the best for last, right, Roger? As is the election is tomorrow. So,
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Gotta beat the clock here.
There we go. So I was explaining to Roger, we'll follow our usual protocol. Let's go around and do very brief introductions, just so we give Roger a taste for who's in the virtual room here. And then we'll turn it over to Roger, and he can take as much time as he'd like to introduce us to himself and why he's running, what's important to him, what he sees as the issues, and we'll open it up for questions and answers. And if people can use the Zoom raise hand function, if they're able to, that would be great. So I'll start with myself. Doug Hanna, I moderate these sessions, been in town, about 40 years, right? We moved here in the early 80s, raised 4 kids here, heavily involved with the First Congregational Church of Natick for most of my volunteer work. Sarah?
And I am I'm a town meeting member, also do a bunch of volunteer stuff with the church. I was in my professional career, I did hazardous waste site assessments and cleanups, and so I've always had an interest in the environment. And that's enough about me. I'll let someone else take a turn.
And Noelle, I'm just moving through the screens as I see them.
Sure. Hi, my name's Noelle Lee. I'm 34 years old, and this is my first time here, and I joined because I recently signed up to be a member at the Common Street Spiritual Center for the Sunday services. And before that, I was at City Life Presbyterian Church. My parents have been owning in North Framingham for about 10 years. And before that, they were owning in Newton. And then before that, our family lived in Colorado, and then Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, where I think Ron DeSantis is from. And then Texas, yeah. So that's where I'm from. Came to Boston for college. Family moved here in Newton, and now Metro West. Thank you.
Thanks, Noelle. Elaine?
Sure.
Hi. Well, I'm relatively new to Natick. I've been here about 7 years. I grew up in Fall River. I was in the 4th class at Brandeis University, where I graduated in 1955. And Coffee with a Purpose was how I've gotten to know Natick and some of the issues.
Thanks,
so
Elaine.
Welcome, Michelle.
Thanks, Elaine. Kathleen?
Roger, hi. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Kathleen Donovan. I've lived in Natick 33 years now, and I was a librarian by profession. So when I came to Natick, I got involved with the Morse Institute Library. And I've served on the Board of Trustees for a number of years, currently a candidate for re-election. And again, so appreciate that you're joining us.
Thanks, Kathleen. Carol, you're currently on mute. But you got to come off mute there, Carol. There you go.
Good morning. You have a beautiful scene behind you. Green and beautiful blue sky.
Hi, Carol. I saw you yesterday.
That's right. We did at Common Street.
That's right.
So we had a chance to say hi there. But I'm a town meeting member, and I've been very active with Lake Cochituate because I live on the lake. And what else? I just am interested in conservation and do various projects toward the goal of making Natick the most beautiful town that exists in the suburbs. So it's good to see you this morning.
Thanks, Carol. Carrie?
Hi, good morning, Roger. Carrie Butfield. I just about a month shy of being here for 20 years in Natick, town meeting member. I currently am or was involved in different environmental committees here in town, and currently spearheading Natick's first ever repair cafe, where volunteers can come in and get things fixed for free, hopefully. coming up as part of Earth Day all around Natick at the end of April, April 29th.
Cool. Thanks, Carrie. Pat?
Good morning. I'm Pat Conway, the founder of Keep Natick Beautiful, I guess, former town meeting member, former member of the Trails Committee, tried to get the Coffee with a Purpose going a few years ago with my sister Sally. So yeah, delighted to be here, hear what you have to say, Roger, and great to see everybody.
Thanks, Pat. Bill?
Pat may be former several things, but he was one of the first people I met when I came to Natick. Got me involved with the Keep Natick Beautiful. I've been working on Pekin Cove as a trail steward for 7 or 8 years now. I'm a town meeting member up for re-election, interested in environmental issues, and active at First Congregational Church in Natick.
Thanks, Bill. Cindy? Did you find the mute there? There you go.
Good morning, Roger. Thank you for coming today. I am 4 years in Natick, and I am a trail steward for the CWAP Trail. And I am one of the people that picks up litter at Coolidge Shield. And other than that, I just try to stay informed.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. Sally?
Good morning, Roger, and everybody. I moved here about a few years ago, but I'll tell you what, when you move to Natick, you become an environmentalist because it's it's a storybook town in many ways. I'm from Southern California, lots of sagebrush and ocotillo and desert scapes. And so I moved here to the forest, and I'm part of Keep Natick Beautiful. Of course, being Pat's sister, I could not avoid doing that. But I mean, it's an obligation of joy, and I really love this group. Doug and Sarah and Bill and Martin have brought Coffee with a Purpose all along. I was part of the coffee. Pat was part of the purpose. So, but welcome,
We're neighbors.
Yes, we are.
All right. Thanks, Sally. Rick?
Morning. Good morning. Special good morning to Michelle. I lived in Jacksonville as a kid, went to school there. So it's changed.
I was there at Loretto Elementary School. And then I went to a magnet school called not James Weldon, Darnell Cookman Middle School in downtown Jacksonville. If those sound familiar.
Jacksonville has changed a lot. I was there visiting for
it
a
really
week
has.
in January, old friends. I still get down. Anyway, welcome. It's great to have a young face here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a town meeting member and one of the Eco-Natick volunteers with Bill, working on Earth Day mostly, and helping Debbie Marion try to keep things going. She's the real worker bee of the group, and just started on Transportation Advisory Committee. Another deep plunge for me into unknown waters. So welcome to Roger. So, looking forward to hearing you. Thanks.
Thanks, Rick. And Brinley?
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Noel. Welcome. Noel and Rick, I had no idea we had the Jacksonville connection. Born in Florida, lived there for many years. I still have family in Jacksonville. Changed very much, so I would not recognize.
Everywhere in America has changed a lot. Yeah, I graduated. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I'm a 23-year resident in Natick. Have been on committees. I'm very active. I'm also a town meeting member, and Mr. Scott, I'm happy to have you here and get to meet you. Thank you for doing this today.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for all those introductions. What?
Did we get Bill?
Bill Ramage?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Bill Ramage.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we got everybody there. So, Roger, we will turn it over to you. Tell us about yourself and why you're running, all that good stuff.
Sure. Okay, my name is Roger Scott. I came to Natick in 1973. I had an opportunity to And I graduated from the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy back in 1969. And I was working as a pharmacist out in Illinois for 3 years. And then I came back to Massachusetts because we had a child out there and we wanted to be with family. So we made our trip back to Massachusetts. And an opportunity came up that a pharmacy in South Natick was up for sale. And it was owned by Suburban Pharmacy. They had 3 pharmacies in town. And being a young guy with no financing, but saying, if you don't do this now, you're never going to do it. So I jumped in head first and got a lot of debt, paid it all off, did 30 years as a business owner at the South Natick Pharmacy. I've lived in town now. My wife and I and family have been here since, for 50 years. We bought our house on Water Street back in 1979. So went to Cathedral High School in Boston, where I met my wife back in the day, and we ended up 53 years of marriage. I think it's a pretty good deal. She's a wonderful woman. We have 3 children. They all went to the Natick schools. They all have done superbly in life. I have one son, electrical engineer out in California. I have a daughter who's the head of HR for a company, a national company. And my youngest son, he was the assistant GM for the Boston Red Sox and director of baseball analytics. And he has 4 World Series rings. He came with the team in 2004, so he's the guy that broke the curse.
I hope he gets you tickets now and then.
Well, what actually happened is he ended up, when they hired Chaim Bloom, he had an opportunity to be he applied for the GM job for the New York Mets. So he was the second choice in that case. And the first guy ended up having a sexual harassment scandal that hit, and they had to let him go. So he moved up as the assistant GM. And so he was after they let the gentleman go, he became the interim general manager for the New York Mets. And learned all about the struggles of life, and has now been he's a consultant for other sports teams, setting up analytical departments. So he's currently working for the Texas Rangers, analytics. He's setting up the Pittsburgh Pirates. He had the Pittsburgh Penguins. He just went down and was talking to the Dallas Mavericks. So he's basically getting analytic departments. He has a degree from University of Vermont in stats and math. So he's very well versed in the business. So he's been very proud of my boy, proud of all my children. And I have 6 grandkids, 2 in New York, 3 in California. I have 1 here in Melrose, Mass. My daughter adopted a child from Ethiopia who is 11 pounds at 11 months from an orphanage there. And he's the love of he's a sweetheart. God bless him. He's 13 years old now. He's sharp as a tack. He's done really well in life. So I love him dearly. So getting that format out of getting that taken care of, I want to say, why did I get involved in politics? Well, first of all, I did work. I just retired up to this past December. And I was concerned with the Charles River Dam at the time because they were allocated funds to repair the dam back in 2018, 2019, and they never acted on that. So I was kind of concerned that why would the town meeting appropriate funds and not have it acted on? And so then they started to switch the conversation over to the release of the dam. So I was analyzing the Stantec report, which the town authorized. And when I looked at all the figures on the Stantec report, environmentally, it wasn't sound. So they did samplings from the river, and Stantec company turned them over to a company called Alpha Analytics. Alpha Analytics did a report under the penalties of perjury. It was not a complete report by request of Stantec, so we ended up getting what they call CAM, which should have been considered, but they circumvented the total results. So it was not duly acceptable as a report, and it showed that chlordane, which was a pesticide, that was outlawed in 1988 and has a long life is still in the impoundment area to the point of 6 to 7 times of the ecologically accepted levels. They found that we got basically double the lead, double the mercury. We have aliphatic and aromatic hydrocarbons such as toluene, and it just became something of a concern that they were just going to let this loose. When you looked at the report, there's 800 feet up from the dam area is an MWA pipes that run under the river that could be exposed depending on drought situations or whatever conditions the river undergoes at a given time. That should be dealt with, that we cannot damage that pipe and cause a catastrophe. Basically, I find that there's the report itself says there's 22,400 cubic yards of product that would be moved down river, and that would of course include the chemicals. And if you look at environmental reports that have been involved in other dam removal, it says basically you shouldn't disturb what's already there. You shouldn't set it loose. There's 2 to 4 feet of muck in front of the impoundment area, of which they did the sampling on the first foot. They took those samples and found that. God knows this dam has been here since 1934. What other common, risks are there to the neighborhood? They had, in the report, it says it could settle on people's lawns. The damming could actually, the movement of gravel and other things could affect the Pleasant Street Bridge. So there hasn't been a number assessed to how much it would cost to reinforce the Pleasant Street Bridge. There is 22 Pleasant Street has water rights to the Charles River. There is quiet conversation between the owner and the town as to what's he going to do about that. And from what I hear from this is he doesn't want to give up his rights. So I don't know how you're going to go about the next step on that. The dam removal back in 2019, Bill McDowell, who's the town engineer, quoted at a meeting for the public that we could spend 1.5 million to repair the dam, and it would be good for the next 90 years. And that was prior to the conversations about, well, what if we did the other? So if you look at the Stantec report, the dam removal could cost you up to $2.9 million. It's in the report. There are a lot of factors that have been overlooked and the rush to get the dam removed. I know the state is trying to do that. They have had state grants involved in this thing to the tune of like $500,000 so far. And when I've looked at the state grants, they've been like a circle. They have a meeting, $20,000, another meeting, $35,000. So a lot of money is being spent on meetings, not addressing the issue. It's just like goes in a circle that I'm very concerned that the money isn't directed toward just taking care of the issue, which would be reinforcing that dam. I've attended all of the 19 meetings that we had before as far as a citizen, and with my 2 minutes that I was allowed in those meetings, I stressed my issues that we have to the dam up front. I would urge every one of you to go down there and take a look at the impoundment area, because that is going to narrow. In the impoundment area, it's admitted by the people who are involved in the dam removal, conservationists, that there will be mud and there will be future growth, probably in a year or two, and that there could be concerns with Japanese knotweed and other invasive weeds that could cause damage to people's property. And the only treatment, which is confirmed by those committees, is that you have to use Roundup. Now, you can't use Roundup near the river. If you do, you could also have heavy rains, put it right into the river, add another pollutant to the river. So we can't push our waste down to the next dam in Needham. You have the Camp Lejeune thing going around. We have drinking water that is, there's been a lot of lawsuits in the country about the Camp Lejeune drinking water. Well, this just happens to be going past our aquifer. So if you let this all loose, you could be endangering the drinking water in the town. So I think that's a major concern and should be addressed. That's how I first got involved. That's step one.
A burning issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but it just, you know, I didn't think I was going to run for a position. I thought I was going to take it easy in life, but I just got pushed to that point. So I started to go to select board meetings, and then I started to see the town has more than this problem. And I said, yeah, you had to get involved or get out of town. And that's the way I was looking at it. So I've been here 50 years. I love my home. It has all our history inside this house. We never changed homes. A couple of the things I would like to see, with the assessment. I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but the current town tax assessment was based on January 22 real estate values. And January 2022 interest rates for housing, etc., were between 3.5%. So you get a nice mortgage for that amount for that down. And so the assessment showed, because there were multiple bidders on homes and pushing the prices of these homes up. So if you were selling, you're in a great position back on that time. And now you have 6 to 7% rates. So that's kind of cool. But to increase our real estate by 10.7%, so this is how this was determined. I was at the meeting when the assessor was speaking, and he said, we have a town that has a 10.7% increase in the value of your home. If you had a condo, it went up by 7.1% for this assessment. And if you were a commercial business, you got a 1.9% increase. So I just thought that was a total imbalance. They voted that night on keeping a 1-to-1 ratio for the town versus commercial, which I totally think is, just based on that, appraisal of 10%, 7%, and then commercial gets 1.9. I thought that was an unjust settlement there. I think that commercial has to be separated from residential, totally in its own category. And I look at the Natick Mall, which is owned by Brookfield Asset Management. And the Brookfield Asset Management is out of Toronto, Canada. The select board approved Lucid EV maker to go into the Sears spot up there. And that's going to be paying this Canadian outfit over $1 million a year in rent. It's got a nice long lease set up there. Lucid is 65% Saudi owned. I look at the opportunity for missed taxes there is blown, to rate us one-on-one and then have the appraisal of the property at such a differential that I think that was an unfair treatment of the residents of this town. We should have been able to make a better deal on that. Lucid's cheapest car is $92,000, and it goes up to, they're making a $258,000 car. So I don't know what kind of good use that is to how many people are going to stop in there as using the mall space. I also know that they're going to have a lab there taken over for Nordstrom's, and we don't know what the lab will be involved in. Will they be doing some testing of we don't want to have another COVID situation, so we need to make sure we know what's going on. So that's another point. So I have, let's see what else I have here. Oh, yeah, I was objecting to the new proposal for the town that is the new head of the DPW wants to change it. This is along with Bill, our engineer. He wants to take your $25 waste, not waste pickup, but the charge you have if you want to get rid of the bulk items. Mm-hmm. You have a $25. You book it ahead of time. The town comes back and you can throw 20 items out there and they'll take them away for you. Now they want to go. They brought before the select board that they want to change that to a 5 for 50. So instead of putting out everything for $25, you're going to pay for 5 items. You're going to pay $50. So if you have to clean anything out of your basement, get it out of there now. I came back with that night and I said, okay, I understand it's inflation going on, but if you have to do something like that, don't go to a 5 for 50. That's preposterous. Go to something like a $35 instead of a $25. So that gives them a 40% increase and basically fees. That department is looking for a 10% increase on their budget on the 2024 budget. So I see a flaw in that. The Stantec company that did the dam study, which, by the way, the first page of that report says we absolve ourselves of any liabilities associated from a third party in this report. So it's like they get themselves off the hook on a single first page statement. That was kind of concerning. And they're also involved with the redo of the roads in town. So Mr. McDowell works with Stantec assessing the 5-year road plan in town. We had an opportunity to get $2 million. I find we were in a hole. We had an asset that we just stole for $100. Mr. Hickey, who's been on, he's retiring from the select board, one of his positions I'm running for basically. They had a 3-2 vote on the 5 Auburn Street proposal, which they studied for a while. And when it came down to it, Mr. Hickey started working on this project back in 2007. And when he came around in about 2010, they tried to sell the property. And that was the old Elliott School. And at the time, they had no bidders on this thing. Mr. Hickey put much more effort into it. This was his baby. And so he finally got 4 people to bid on this proposal, which just had this, they bid on it at the end. I think it was October. They had 6 months to get it done. And on that bid, there were 4 bids that ultimately came to the floor. So we had a $1 bid from a Natick housing operation. We had a $100 bid from the Metro West Collaborative out of Newton. We had a $1.3 million bid from the lady who has her 50 Pleasant Street situation. And then we had a $2 million bid from Trask Development. So in that situation, neighbors were up in an uproar. The Metro West bid, which actually was going to put 32 units of housing in the spot on a street that's 20 feet wide, that has 3 residents, and could cause a disaster as far as coming off that street for those residents. Each of those 32 spots, 32 places would have 1 parking place assigned to it. So if you had any company, they'd be parking all over the area, which would be offensive to the neighbors. The proposal that was rejected, which was the Trask proposal, was that he was going to give $2 million to the town. The properties would sell for between $900,000 and $1.2 million, where they would generate $140,000 in real estate taxes annually. And this is a town that's probably gonna pursue either override or another debt exclusion, because they want to redo the memorial school. So right now we have on the books, we have the high school still on the books. We paid $2 million this past year on interest for the Kennedy School. We got Wilson, I think, is coming off in 2 years. So basically we don't have anything coming off. So we have $132 million worth of debt currently on the books. We got another 78 million proposed. We got 77 of unfunded pension liabilities. So when I add all this up in my little head, I just come to the conclusion that the old timers like myself are going to be in a situation where we will be able to afford to stay in this town. They are coming up with some affordable housing situation possibilities. They want to take the end of Union Street, I guess, is an MBTA proposal that there'd be a 15 units per acre minimum on the spot at the end of Union Street where the gas station is, and going all the way down to Grant Street, that they would have mixed use housing. They're trying to passing a change in zoning. So that would be on that side, and on the Santander Bank, they want to put in retail spots. So there's a lot of there's 4 houses currently in that area between Union and Grant. I don't know how that works out. That the requirement said it had to be within a half a mile of that rail station, which is fine. That does fulfill that requirement. Once again, I don't know where that funding would come from to do such a project. Have to look at it more seriously as things get a little bit more down the road. We do need affordable housing. We do have met our requirement for affordable housing in time, so we are in compliance. We had one asset that $2 million could have been used toward the memorial school down the road, or toward retiring some debt, or whatever we might need down the road, buy the cars. Another thing that I stand up against is the town has Fords. You know, we purchased Fords, and it's not a bidding process. So the idea was brought up that that there should be an open bidding at a town meeting. Last town meeting, somebody came up and said, "Why don't we, bid on let that bidding be open?" And the answer was that because we got the parts from Ford, and we were accustomed to working with Fords. And it's like, I don't know if that really holds water as far as that fair to the rest of the town to not get the best deal. So I do want to change that. So there are a lot of things that we have real serious problems down the road, and I think we need to get on them now instead of later. We got a situation, we had this COVID deal that sort of messed us up, but we were able to get those ARPA funds that did help in that. I don't like to see us using our cash to balance our budgets. We need to have a responsible department heads to make sure they stay within reason so that the town operates efficiently. We are losing our superintendent of schools. She's going to Newton. She took a job in Newton. She did her 20 years in Natick, so we're going to have to replace that position. So I think that's a concern for us. There's a lot of things that need to be done. I think there's a fiscal responsibility. I think is one of the important things is if you do something in the town, a lot of times you just leave the bill and move out of town. I don't think that's the right approach. I want to live here till I die, and could because of this. But anyway, I really think that I would address these issues. It's a non-paying job. I think you need to step in. I had a business for 30 years. I made it work. I managed it. And the only reason I left is because at the time, rates on really, the rent increase was double of what I was paying. So I was just like, okay, I'm out of here. I can't do this. It's just working for the landlord. So I had to step out that way. And I was fortunate enough to sell my business to Eaton Apothecary in Sherburne at the time. So we had a good relationship. I went over there. I eventually was managing that pharmacy over there. Then along came Walgreens, and they purchased the pharmacy as part of, it was a small chain of about 20 stores, and they were running into a little financial difficulty. So Walgreens came and bought 10 of the pharmacies that they had, with the intent of closing the Sherburne store because it's a small town and it didn't fit the model for their company. So I led a fight against Walgreens in Illinois, which is David and Goliath. And we had everybody do a letter writing campaign in town. We had contacted a member who sat on the board who had ties to Sherburne and knew the Walgreens, Charles Walgreen III. And basically we put in a full-fledged fight. They came in, they actually walked in the door, looked around and said, "Oh, what a beautiful store you have." And went back and made a decision, and it was a profitable store, by the way, that will take you on and will keep you open. And they signed a lease, a 10-year lease, and kept that store open for the next 10 years. When they had a corporate raider came in, and of course eventually closed it. But the thing is, the store, we fought for it, we won. While I was a Cathedral alumni, I started a scholarship fund for the kids. The average student at Cathedral comes from a family with an average income of $43,000. It's like 95% minority, maybe 97% minority. Great kids. For the last 20 years, Cathedral got their kids into college, every one of them. So we get 100% college acceptance from that from my old alma mater. So I came in there and started a scholarship fund, and we've 4 years ago, and we've helped 25 students stay in Cathedral because it's a challenge for them. Cathedral has gone out, and we have a fund that we've contacted, like Fidelity and a whole bunch of the good guys that used to graduated in my era, and have an indebtedness to the school because of their success in life. And we've kept the doors open. A lot of schools shut down. No kid last year paid over $2,000 for tuition. We subsidized the rest of that. So these are all the things, get involved with. It's volunteer work with the scholarships, the big fight against the giant Walgreens. And, I know I can get things done because it's history. I've done it. So any questions?
Thank you, Roger. Man, you've given us a lot to react to, and it's your passion for the issues that matter to you is clearly evident. I want to take prerogative as moderator and ask you just a couple of quick ones, and then I see Noelle also has her hand up. But before we go to her, two things. One, just on your kind of personal biography and history with the town, I'm curious whether you've had other volunteer positions working with, town government or, town committees, that kind of thing. So that's the one question. And then also, I know that you weren't able to be present at the Yes for Natick forum with the other candidates, but the moderator read a statement that you provided. And in that statement, you had a theme of safety. I think you've touched on emergency response safety, police safety, possibly another dimension. And I wanted to know if you wanted to expand on that at all.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity for that. I went to, as you know, I was in Israel at that time for a pilgrimage with a church out of Holliston, St. Mary's Church, and it was a great experience. So not being able to attend, they asked me if I would be willing to give a statement. So something that would be between 1 and 2 minutes long. So what I did is I narrowed it down. It's the one thing that, like, you can see how I feel about the dam. This is a safety issue. Not only in the chemicals that are in there, but in the possibility of changing the river's direction, which, that'll take its own shape. So I had a safety with a flooding issue and a safety with the chemicals that are in the river. So the first issue, though, I want to address is the police in town. And what I would like to see is the police being directed to protect children in school, the teachers and the staff that work in our schools. Every day we see this crazy happening in the news about somebody going mad, insane, and hurting people in our schools. It's a growing problem. I don't ever want to see that in Natick. I think it's our number one obligation to the children in our town is to make them safe. In that particular circumstance, the way I would do that is I'd love to be able to direct the chief of police and discuss this with him as to providing either a police officer. I think I added five of them about a month ago. Police officers to be at all of the Natick public schools at some period during the day, or having a rotation or assignment of maybe 2 policemen to do a rotation between the schools to check on the schools, to see what's going on in the schools. We had an incident with anti-Semitism that sort of got buried. And the response to that was we punished the whole team. I don't even know what team it was, but kids that were going there that were innocent got punished along with the guilty. I don't think that's the right approach. I would like to see them make sure, we got 2 marijuana dispensaries in town, that kind of deal going on. It's like, it's very easy to move marijuana from a legitimate place to down into the system. And I don't want to be feeding the kids at our schools with that. I mean, junior high and high school, that could be a crisis for us down the road. It needs to be regulated, monitored. I want that all stopped. I see a lot of, sadly, fentanyl coming into the country. So fentanyl, and they're mixing it with the animal tranquilizer, and it sort of like increases the potency of the fentanyl. And fentanyl, being a pharmacist, we use dosages of up to 100 micrograms on pads for chronic pain. So you have a person with cancer who's living every day in pain. All of a sudden, you put a patch on. It's good, releasing 100 micrograms at maximum, usually 25, 50, 75, and 100. So it's releasing that over a 72-hour period. So you have sort of like taking off the edge of your disease in this time. So I think that's a serious issue, that we get 2 milligrams of fentanyl will kill you. So I don't want to see any fentanyl in town. Especially, if it ever makes its way to the school system, I just think that that'd be a total wrong. So I have that. I also, on as far as the safety issue that I put on that 3-question answer, fire department. We have the loss of the Leonard Hospital. So now we have to get our people who are in need of an ambulance over to either Newton Wellesley Hospital or the Metro West in Framingham. And that situation is time consuming. So you have an ambulance out on a call, and it's a 45-minute call by the time they get the person in, set up, and they get back into town. So you got the use of an ambulance a loss for 45 minutes in either situation, in either direction. You have to have a second and maybe even a third ambulance ready to go. The second ambulance, I believe, is staffed by one emergency EMT person, and they have to use a fire person to assist them on those trips. So I think you got to take care. We're building on on 135. We just put up a assisted living, I believe that was, and we're bringing in more elderly. Well, I'm sure with all of the added affordable housing, there will be a lot more elderly coming into those situations. So we're increasing the pressure on the fire department and the ability of EMTs to respond to these situations. And we need to be able to be ready to do so. Catastrophic situations need to be dealt with. And of course, my stance on the river with the chemicals that are in the river, that we need to either leave them alone, fix the dam, which is recommended by a lot of the dam removal proposals that they've done in Maine and situation. They say, don't move the bundle. Don't mess up what you already have. Or you're going to have to spend millions of dollars to clean it out of there before you release the dam. And that project will probably end up costing you $10 million when you're done. So I think you have to face the realities of the safety of the town. It's my primary concern. I want the kids to be safe. I get 3 kids next door, 2, 4, and 6. They're one step closer to the river than I am. My kids grew up here. My wife and I lived here since '79. Both of us have battled cancer. My wife had 3 times breast cancer. I've had 4 times prostate cancer, and we've had responded to that. We've both went full remission, so we're in good shape. But who knows where that source of that came from? So you never know. And I mean, we've had flooding in our basement. We've had all of those issues down with the dam there. And I don't need a redesign to affect that. And I think we have to accept this responsibly. That's where I'm standing.
Yeah, thank you. And if you could just touch on the personal biography thing. Have you had other public service assignments in town over your years? Or?
Well, my primary concern was my family. So, my responsibility was to get my kids to college, leave them without debt, And that's what I did. So I worked 70 hours a week for 30 years at the pharmacy. It's just the way you do it.
Yep.
And with that, owning a business, that got them on their feet and basically got them to be good citizens. They had started life that they could actually buy a home because they didn't have college debt to deal with. And as a dad, I think that was my primary responsibility is my children, my wife. And so it was like, what time would you have for doing anything else? So I was always work and family. So family and work is how it actually ends up being, because the reason you're working is for your family.
Yep. So you prioritize. Yep.
Absolutely. That's it. Now I'm retired. So,
right.
You start to look around and say, wait a minute,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Noelle, I know you had your hand up and then you lowered it, but do you still have a question?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I just didn't want to have that hand up the entire time. So, Mr. Scott, one area of interest that I have that you touched on is caring for baby boomers, elders. And you said one idea was essentially having a Ford fundraiser. Did I get that right? Or you said something about like selling or.
Yeah. No, the Ford thing was the town has a deal with Ford Automotive.
Oh.
So it wasn't a voted on process. So it was a sign that we are going to buy Ford vehicles. Now, one of the vehicles that they replaced had 41,000 miles on it. Now, I don't know about you, but I have two cars and they both, one has 73,000 miles on it. The other one has 110. So I don't know why the town is disposing of a car with 41,000 miles on it. And everything is just, I don't know whose dealership that has the deal with the town, but I'm sure, the explanation from the deputy administrator at that meeting that night was, well, we do this deal with Ford because all of the guys are accustomed to working with Ford parts. We have the parts. So if we need to fix something, we have the part there. And I think that's a weak argument. I think you need to let Chevy in on the bid, Toyota, whoever the heck makes vehicles that can deliver. We need a vehicle that'll last, a vehicle that can handle quick starts, getting out there, a vehicle that doesn't need to be constantly repaired. And that needs to be open to the public to have a chance to assess that situation is for the correct answer for the town. So that was what I was referring to Ford.
Oh, well, I was just going to say one area that I'm interested in is caring for baby boomers and elders. I even wrote a letter to Concerned Women of America, seeing what they were doing, because most of my public school teachers are now retirement age, and a lot of service providers I retain are baby boomers in their 70s. And what really upset me one time was I had a driving instructor who told me he served in Vietnam and he was very nice. And it became clear that he was still working without retiring. And I'm seeing more and more service providers like that. And it concerned me. So I saw that you were also concerned. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one making these observations. Have you considered, I'm sorry.
I am a baby boomer. I was born in 1946. I'm a war baby. So here I am. Baby boomers. I just retired this past December. So, that's 76. I turned 76 in November. And, I thought it was time to be dealing with cancer in my life. I just said, I got to spend some time with my wife that we don't have to, we'd be able to travel, things like that. But I worked a long time. So even after the fact that I sold the store in 30 years ownership, now that was actually a gift in my life. It's a crazy thing how things work out in your life, how someone greater than you is thinking of your situation. And when having a pharmacy for 30 years and working 70 hours a week, I was taking care of everybody but myself. And after I sold the pharmacy, I, went for that big appointment with the doctor. And that's when my primary care doctor, who Chris Smith, who is now over in Wellesley, he did that dirty digital rectal exam, and he said, "Hey, what's this?" So I was like, "I think you should see your urologist." So I went to see my urologist at the time, and he said, "That's got to come out." So I had prostate that was hard as a rock. So it probably had been going on for a couple of years. I had a Gleason of 4+3, which is not too cool. So I immediately had, got a second opinion because I'm a guy. Guys do crazy things like it'll magically go away. So I went and saw the second opinion, and he said, "Yeah, you got to get that out of there." So I had the surgery, and then that was 2004, August 2004, and then in 2005, I'm sorry. I came back and I had to have 37 rounds of radiation with that, and then that went away. And then back in 2010, they came back with a flurry. It's like, oh my gosh, this is not so good, and it really was aggressive. And I ended up going on medication that knocked the heck out of it. So this is, a blessing. The fact that this was discovered all because I couldn't afford to pay the rent there anymore. So mysterious ways that things happen that benefit you in your life. And I'm grateful for this,
Yeah. Thank you.
But baby boomers got to keep working.
Did others have questions? Or I know Noel would seem to have another one, but seeing no other hands, so go ahead, Noel. Did you?
Oh, sure. So regarding maybe allocating funds like welfare funds for caring for baby boomers, not welfare, but like Social Security for increasing affordable housing for seniors who don't have a lot of security. Are those problems you work on?
Sure. As far as you can't do anything about Social Security, that's a federal program. Medicare is a federal program. So
okay. Oh, so these are that's
eligible. You become eligible at 65 for a Medicare Part A, so that covers hospitalizations. It's the Medicare Part B that you have money taken out of your payment, so that covers 20%. Basically covers up the pretty much the rest of the bill, depending on the plan you pick. So you really can't do anything about that at a town level. As far as affordable housing, I definitely favor that. Now, with this project on 5 Auburn Street, just on that vote that I said went 3-2, and we missed out on the $2 million. The explanation given by the select board on the 3-2 vote, first of all, Paul Joseph and Mike Hickey were the guys who voted to take the $2 million because we needed the funds. And the 3 votes that went against it were Mr. Evans, Mr. Sidney, and Catherine Coughlin. And their explanation was that we could have the affordable housing, which would help out people. But the funny thing that Catherine said, and I kind of think that it was wrong, is she said that the town employees would be able to get the housing. Well, I don't think that's how it works. I think that's open to whoever, it's state and federal funded. And I think that would be discriminatory to say this particular group is going to get the housing. I think that would be open. So there'd be a little contest between the senior citizens and the town employees. So you just can't assign that to the town employees. I don't know what law you'd be breaking, but I imagine there'd be a discriminatory practice involved in that. And once again, we might end up in a courtroom. We have like $750,000 worth of claims or liabilities on the court scene that's in the report, in the town report. So that is, I just don't want to add to that. We've got,
all right.
You got to be fair. If you're going to do it, you got to be fair and open-minded, and you just can't say, I'm going to put my grandson in this position, or my best friend who's working for the town. And, it's hard to live in the town of Natick. I don't think that would be it. The way you could do things. So, and as far as the other housing, they're talking about building down by the west, I guess it's West Natick, that they have the Framingham line. There's going to be a lot of construction between that rail station and the Framingham line for affordable housing. And like I say, at the end of Union Street, they're going to be 15 units per acre. I don't know how many acres it is from Grant to the corner of Union. And so there's going to be affordable housing there. We've already met our quota across from the St. Patrick's Church. There's Stonegate building starting to, I actually saw some work being done there the other day. They are required to have 25% affordable housing in there. So they have 56 units. So that means 14 of those units are going to be affordable housing. So we are responding to the affordable housing situation. Now, the question is, with $132 million on your debt, 78 coming on, and unfunded pension liability over $70 million, at what point do we start to force people who want to stay in their homes out? Now, I have a proposal that I've spoken about is if you live in your home for 25 years, so you stay in the same residence for 25 years. So when you move to Natick and you're in your house for 25 years, and as your taxes are going to go up annually, that's part of life. But when you get to that 25th year, and I think this is a fair proposal, at 25th year, that tax that you pay on your 25th year in your real estate tax will be a locked-in tax as long as you stay in that home. So year 26, if your tax is $11,000, it's going to be $11,000. You don't have to worry about it becoming 12, 13, 14. And I've dealt with being in the pharmacy. I have, both in Sherburne and in Natick, I have learned, I've got involved with I'm not CVS, I'm not Walgreens. I actually got involved with families that we talk, and I could hear, people like forced out of town. I mean, I had a nice couple from Sherburne, and they had a big family, so they had a big house, and they were paying $25,000 in real estate taxes. And we just can't swing it anymore. So they ended up having their house on the market a long time, because it's not as easy to sell. But they did finally bail out, and I'm happy for them that they were able to get themselves into a more affordable position. But they had to leave town. So I don't want to see all of the seniors in this area all of a sudden saying, I can't afford to live in Natick. I can't afford to live in Massachusetts. Let's go to Florida. Or let's go to North Carolina. Let's go to South Carolina. And then you get, 25% more house for the same money, and your taxes go down by 60%. It's like, is that what we want? I mean, I personally want to stay here. I want to be somewhat near my grandson there in Melrose, and I want to be able to be near our doctors. It's like I go for checkups every 3 months, and I don't want to start over going down to a Duke medical area. It's like that's your next option. So this is these are considerations. Yeah, I mean, Noelle, God bless you. You're a young person, not a child. You're a young lady, and I appreciate that. You've got a great future ahead of you. You're smart. You're very intelligent, and you're seeking out good things, going down to the religious point down in congregational, and that's good stuff. I feel good the fact that in my faith, I was able to get to Israel, which to me is like the most important trip I've ever taken in my life. So these are things, they're not easy answers. I can honestly say they take deep thought. And the more I went to the select board meetings, the more I saw that, wow, we might be overwhelming ourselves, and we have to do this honestly and affordably. We need to retain our elderly. This is their home. They've been here, like I say, I've been here 50 years, but 25 years, I consider you a veteran. So I think you need a break on that kind of arrangement where you're just not punished to death. I mean, I look at this too. It's just, for instance, the average cost of a student is around $18,000 a year. That's a conservative estimate of what our public schools charge per student. So $18,000 a year. So if, say, I did move to North Carolina, which I don't plan on doing, but just for the theory of what would happen. So I have a 3-bedroom little cape down here in South Natick. We converted over. We got a 2-car garage. Hallelujah. And if we had this 3-bedroom situation, I sold the house, more than likely it would appeal to to someone who has at least 2 children. And I look at that as I am here. I pay net positive to the town. If you bring in two children into the same residence, okay, I disappear. My taxes will be replaced by the person coming in, and the 18,000 per year becomes basically adjusting for inflation, easy math. 20 times 13, 260,000 possibly per child to educate. So you could have this house turn into a $520,000 liability. Not that bringing in children is a bad idea, but I think what would end up happening is you'd be modifying classroom size to be able to pull that off. I don't think the teachers would appreciate that. And trying to keep things stable, I think it's very beneficial to keep people in their homes. So
Okay.
I see a hand. Carrie Butfield.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. First, I just want to preface say this is totally an observation, not a criticism in any way. I see I may be a minority on our little regular Monday morning contingents here. I see signs for other candidates plastered all over town. You obviously have done a deep dive into so many different issues here in town, and very knowledgeable about things, and you're passionate about things and want to stay here. And I like what you've shared with us.
Thank you.
I guess my question is, have you been able to get your message out to some other groups to really sort of talk about it? And again, it's not a criticism. I think I like what you had to say. And
no,
heard your message.
I know, Mike. I to be honest with you, I'm lousy at campaigning. So I bought some signs. I put them out. They were made and delivered while I was basically in Israel. So I get off to a late start. I do have the group that is in favor of trying to get the dam on the town meeting thing. They sort of they're more interested, of course, in that one aspect of where I stand. But I'm poor at it. I will have to say, it's one of those deals. I can beat myself up if I lose by that. I did notice that I got 2 mailings while I was away, and my mail that was saved at the post office, that there were 2 cards in the mail, one from Kristen Pope and one from Richard Sidney. And it seems like they have financial backing behind them. I'm going this alone. I don't want to have to feel like I had to do something financially to get a vote. A sign to me is also, if I vote for a sign, do I, am I just voting for a sign, or I'm voting for Roger Scott on that sign? So it's been a hard thing for me to do. I mean, I got my little thing in there were 2 events while I was in Israel that happened. I did the Republican event. I don't know the Democratic thing. I had that. It was the first thing coming up, and I was like, I think being a lifelong Republican, God bless. I was a Reagan Republican. Let's put it that way. So I liked him a lot, and I just thought, give myself a chance. Feel it out a little bit, see what's going on. And then all the other things popped up during my trip. And it's like, my priority is my trip to my wife. That's the key. But it's a hard thing getting the message out. And they had a group, and obviously they have a mailing, and they had money. That's kind of cool. Money's good.
I hadn't really heard your name until just prior to this coming up today. And you have had a lot to share with the group, and I just wondered how wide your net had been cast. So I understand, but not the only.
Well, hopefully I catch a lot of fish.
A lot of groups to knock out between today and the end of the day to kind of convince people.
Oh, I know. It's just, maybe I'm a little stupid there, So
well,
a lot stupid.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, also consider that it sounds like this is the first time you've dipped your toe into politics, and so I guess I would say, one candidacy does not a political life make, and I certainly would urge you to stay involved if you don't win, and the seats open each year, so
well, I am on there for for a town meeting member too. So I get
Good.
free to attend town meeting. So I'm in there for that as well. I watched how that worked at the meeting when they shut down the dam back in the last meeting they had back, the last town meeting, or that would have been the fall, I believe. And that meeting was closed. The argument debate was limited to a certain aspect of the dam. And at the end of that, Evans and Sydney, who both are select board members, were also town meeting members. And I thought that was like, why should you be in two positions? So I kind of like, looked at that and I said, well, this is kind of fishy. So it was Evans who made the motion to close the argument, and it was seconded by Sydney. And at that point, the game was over. And it was like, basically, it was a giant no. And I thought there were no numbers presented to the town as far as cleaning up that, or ignoring the report that was done. It's like, this isn't a closed argument. You cannot jeopardize the safety of the people and just close the argument because you have a political stance on this thing. No, there are issues with this that need to be addressed, and looks like we're not going to have too much of a chance to address them at the town meeting this coming April. I am a novice. There's no doubt about it. I've been following politics for a long, long time. It's not like I wasn't interested, but like I say, family, comes first. And when we deal with what my wife and I have done with the kids, and they're all great kids, and they're good people, and I think that's what a parent's supposed to do first, and is make their children good to the world, and fortunately, my son has been able to do very well financially, and he took care of a lot of people with all of the things that he's been able to attend and advance. Personally myself, Cathedral High School, I've been a very big donor to them, and that's where I go. I want to see, those are kids that are misfortunate. I don't want them to be stuck in a rut right from the get-go. I want to have them get opportunity to be able to bring themselves up into this world. It's a very competitive world, and I want to give them the best shot at being able to survive in it. So that's me.
So I got an observation and a question, I guess.
Sure.
As I understand it, in terms of the dam,
yeah,
a lot of the controversy and angst, those are both the wrong words. It's been pretty clear that the decision authority is with the select board. Correct. But there's been a very large contingent of folks thinking that town meeting should have a much larger voice in that decision-making process. Correct. So first off, as a quick advertisement for next week's Coffee with a Purpose, we're going to have one of the members of the Town Governance Study Committee, Carol Gloff, speaking to us about that committee. I have no idea whether they're looking at that aspect or not, but just to the question, as a hopeful select board member, how do you feel about what's in the wheelhouse of select board versus town meeting versus any other aspect of town government? Do you think the responsibilities need to be shuffled or changed? Well,
I'm going to go to point one. You had the CPA, it was on the ballot, right? Community Preservation Act thing. That was on the ballot. And the beginning, what should we do with the dam on the ballot? Let the town speak. It's the most beautiful. Yeah, put it on the ballot. Let them have say whether it's a binding question or a non-binding question. Just let people vote on it and see where it flows. And then if you find that 70% of the people want the dam and to deal with what happens with it, how is it that just got thrown into a committee? We'll study the dam. Now, I want to tell you, when this came up back in 2019, I raised my hand, not for this one, but I raised my hand to be on the committee. I sent it, I got the email, I saved it, and the response to that email from Karen, I don't remember her last name, but her response to that was, oh yes, we'll consider you, and we haven't decided on the committee yet, boom, 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 boom. Well, guess what? I never heard from it. The next thing is, oh, the committee has been formed. It's like, wait a minute. they knew what I stand because I spoke earlier on it, right? So I was totally ignored. So the makeup of the committee was kind of strange. So it was a very similar opinion and the commit when they formed that committee. So I don't think that was right. I think the select board, when they made their final vote, you cannot vote without the numbers. So what were they going to do? They knew they had to deal with 22 Pleasant Street and the ownership of 22 Pleasant Street. Was he going to hold you hostage and say, I'll sell it to you for $3 million? You know, that kind of deal. So it's like, you didn't have the vote, the numbers to vote on. And then what was the cost? Well, they throw out some bogus numbers. They said, oh, it's going to be more expensive to repair the dam, they were talking like 1.3 million to remove the dam. Well, if you look at the Stantec report, which they hired the company to do, the company came out and said it could cost up to 2.9 million. And that's not for doing the grounds over. That's just for the dam removal. And that didn't address the chemicals that would have been released and the threat to the aquifer downriver. I don't think you could make a vote without all those factors. So you took the vote away from the people, and I think the citizens should have had the first vote on it. And then from that, you ended up coming up with a decision of 5 people, 1 for saving it because it was a place where you could have peace during COVID. Everyone was hanging out down there because they needed to get the heck away from everything and get some fresh air. You know, it was a place where you could, if you were sad, you could find joy and you know, all of that good stuff. It was overlooked. And I think, you know, that's why we need to get it before the town. And I don't know, you know, I look at some of the town votes. First of all, we got 180 town meeting members, 120 of them, basically, if that's a good day, if they attend. Back in the day when they built the dam, they had 800 town meeting votes on building the dam. 800. So that, how big was the town of Natick back in 1933-ish?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has to be a minuscule compared to that, but they had more say. So those people had more say. Now today we have a representative meeting because, I mean, we don't want to have too much say. It's like we'll never get anything done because everyone's going to come up with something. But you know, it'd be kind of nice if you attended and have a mechanism. If you don't attend 2 in a row, you're out. And the next person on the line, get in there. You know, some kind of a deal like that. You know, if you're going to run for the position, do it. Don't hang out in your house. Don't say, you know, excuses. It doesn't affect me, so I'm not going tonight. You know, that's the problem. But too much power in the town selectman's hand could be a dangerous thing. We're basically the boss. You know, we're the boss of the town. So what we say goes.
Yeah. I know Sarah's got a question.
Yeah, I just so I am that insane town meeting member who has only missed town meet. I think I missed 1 special that was scheduled after I had already made plans to be out of town that I couldn't change.
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years. And I missed it the day I had cancer surgery, and I missed it the day Doug had cancer surgery. So I am very on board with the idea of showing up. But that's a topic that has come up in our various discussions on this group of how do we get more people involved in town meeting? And I know that's not directly a position that the select board is responsible for, but I'd just be curious as much as anything, because it's something that we, as I say, we in this group have talked about a lot, especially down toward precinct 1, where I think there may be nobody running. And how do we get more people involved? So you know, as I say, I know if you were to get elected to the select board, that's not your job as a select person to get somebody on town meeting, but I'd just be curious if you have any thoughts on how we could get some more participation in town meeting, because I absolutely agree. I would love to see more participation in town meeting, and it is disturbing that many of our votes are, you know, based on 112 people if we're lucky.
Right.
So I absolutely agree with you on that particular topic.
The question is the answer to the question. I guess it's, you know, I became passionate over my issue. I don't know what it takes to get, is that the side of town that has a lot of apartments? I'm not sure.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So, I mean, if you're transient, you're going through there and you're going to be there for a couple of years until you get your house or something like that. That's kind of hard to get people involved in the town because,
Mhm.
they're passing through type thing. And that, I can see how they think that way. Is what do I want to give my time up? I could be, going to the basketball game or something like that. So, yeah, I guess that's built inside of a person. You got it.
It's just
I
an
don't.
interesting question, and
Yeah.
I know
I
as
know.
I say, we've talked about how to try to get more people involved, and I absolutely agree with you that we need more than just somebody whose name is in a slot who never shows up. We need them to
Yeah.
be there, and I've tried personally to say, I got elected to the position. I really want to take it seriously and show up, and I have tried to do that, and I know some people can't. You might be out of town for work, or you might be sick, or your kid's sick, or whatever. So, certainly there are legitimate reasons why you might not be able to attend every meeting, but I would love to figure out a way to get more people involved.
Well, perhaps related to that is, as you point out, Roger,
Yep.
you got passionate about the dam issue, and so that's what got you running, and you knew about the dam issue. I know with that particular issue, and I don't necessarily want to dwell on that issue, but just systemically, people in town do complain. I don't know whether it's justifiable or not, that we never knew about X, Y, or Z. And all of a sudden, this action is happening relative to it. And yet the people involved with that issue think, how could you say that? There's been countless meetings and, forums and all that kind of things. That, do you have any thoughts about what the town could do to reach out better, to make it easier for the average citizen resident of town to stay informed? Because everybody's busy and they only have so much bandwidth to try to dive in and learn about things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues that they present too far into the development. Getting back to that, dwelling on the dam issue, the dam is owned by the town, and the maintenance was supposed to be provided by the town. So would we have been in this position if the proper maintenance had been done? It's like so many of the school buildings and stuff. Would have we been needing to build a new building if we took care of certain issues along the way at 25% of the price? So right now with this thing on the end of Union Street, how many people know about what's going on and how much is that going to cost? So it's almost like something gets formed before it gets studied, and there's an opinion already in place. I don't know how you battle that. It's like is maybe mailings done by the town on a quarterly basis to let you know what's going on. So hey, if you live in this area and they're gonna do something, you should get the notice and start paying attention, and not until it's already been decided pretty much, and now you get the notice saying, oh, here's the next step. And it's like, wait a minute, where was my say on this? So probably an information campaign coming from the downtown area, where it's not just on a bulletin board when you go into town hall, and there really isn't any big newspaper circulation. So it's hard to get out issues and to the public, and maybe some kind of an information campaign from the town to the citizenry should be directly mailed. I don't know, directly mailed, or sign up for a town web thing where we keep you informed. They have that thing where your water bill is smart water, and that's something you can sign up for, and you get all this information about your water. Or maybe you need a smart voter site that sends you out, and everybody can say, hey, you smart voter, you want to know what's going on? This is what we're doing. And they make a new advice. Somebody puts it on, and then you just sign in and say, hey, how smart am I today? And then you can see what's going on in the town. Maybe that'd be probably the cheapest way. So you push that, selectmen say it, everybody says, go to this to know what's going on. And maybe that would be a source of information that would be inexpensive to pull off. And, you know, we have somebody who's supposed to be already in town that is an information provider, and that job could be probably put on them. And maybe
Yeah,
like that, you know.
that's an excellent idea, Roger. I really
Why,
think
thank
so.
you.
Yeah. I see Brinley's got her hand up, and then we'll probably want to think about coming to a close pretty soon. But Brinley?
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Brett.
I was just I had to be in and out a little because I had some work stuff this morning, but in this very last a point where you were talking about communication.
Oh no,
You cut out.
Broke up.
Brinley is often on via mobile phone, so she might have lost her connection.
Yeah.
She lives across the street. I should go run across and yell at
See
her.
if she's home. Yeah, we'll give her a minute to reconnect. She looks like she lost her connection.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, while we're hoping for her to come back, I do want to thank you again for joining us. The most important thing with the election tomorrow is to go out and vote. We certainly wish you the best of luck with your candidacy. And as Sarah was saying, if you're not successful, there are countless ways to be involved in different committees and town meeting and so forth. So also, as I mentioned earlier, next week, we will kind of begin looking at the town as a whole. We'll have Carol Gloff from the Town Governance Study Committee coming to speak to us about what that committee's activities have been, maybe where they are in report generation and so forth. There may be other members of that committee joining, although there's a limit on how many you can have without violating open meeting law. So we need to be careful of that. And then because Springtown meeting is happening at the end of April, we'll turn our attention to the town warrant. We'll have Frank Foss join us, as he did last year, give us his take both on process and what he sees as how it's going to proceed. Then we have good old Marathon Monday. We will not have Coffee with a Purpose that day. And then we'll be at just the night before town meeting starts, and we'll have just kind of an internal discussion about because there are a lot of town meeting members in our group, how we each feel about the warrant articles and maybe what FinCom has said about those articles and so forth. I have a text on my phone. It may well be Brinley. We'll see what she says. Yeah.
Too much technology.
Yeah. She says, "Hi, Doug." Well, that's helpful. Hi, Brinley.
One other thing, you're going to have Carol on next week.
Yes. Yeah.
So when I was at that meeting that night at the select board appropriating funds for that, they gave her, I think she was going to have three interviews, and the offer was supposed to be, we're going to pay between $10,000 and $50,000 for this decision that she's involved with. And you have to take the lowest bid. So I just want to throw that out there because it's kind of like, did we get anything out of that deal? So I just.
Which decision is that now?
On her committee there to see if we should be changing town government.
Yeah.
We're reassessing what should we do to change our government in town. And the select board gave her $10,000 to $50,000 maximum, $50,000. And she was supposed to review 3 bidders for this, and she had to take the lowest bid. So I don't know how that works out, whether that says anything to the town. I mean, I kind of like the town meeting process. I think people should have the say. I don't want to see this turned into a municipality, city, or anything like that idea. I think you should have say in your government. So I'll be interested to see how she stands on that.
Okay. We will make sure we ask her that question. Brinley seems not to be able to get in, but with your permission, Roger, I'll give her your email address, and I think she might want to reach out directly with a question or a comment or something. Bill, did you have something quick?
Yeah, just to a quick question for you. You
Sure.
you talked about the need for additional funding for ambulance and police, I believe, when you were talking about the security and safety in the schools.
Yeah.
And you also talked about our taxes are difficult, and senior citizens have trouble
Right.
staying in town. So I was
Yep.
wondering just how you reconcile those two. You want to spend
Sure.
more money, but you also want to keep taxes low. Could you address
Well,
that, please?
I'll tell you one thing, that as far as police should be police, you know, I was armed robbery when I had my pharmacy in 1995. I was shot up, tied up, etc. And we had the person, and it never went to trial. So yeah, I want police to do police work. What really troubles me is when I see police duty and somebody's working on a sign or something like that. They work on it an hour. The police get paid for the 4 hours, and you know, this is not police work to me. When we just had our Water Street, 40 Water Street, our street was just the gas company came down and they replaced the old lines, and basically they had to dig up the street for about 2 months. And of course, they didn't have police. They maybe had 2 police duties on that whole thing. The company that was doing the replacement of the gas lines was providing people with a stop and a slow sign, and they were covering each end of that. And they had people who would put cones down and let people into the neighborhood and whatever they had to do. And they left the street with a bunch of bumps. And but in the process of doing so, I can't understand why we can't use our police in situations like I just discussed, where we're wasting them on a street when somebody else can do that work. We don't need to have a policeman do that. They do it in other parts of the country. I mean, you can see they have sign people to handle those, and we're tying up policemen with that kind of duty. I want the town to be safe. You know, I don't want to have myself in a situation. I mean, fortunately, that I'm getting. I mean, I had 2 armed robberies in my South Natick location, 1977 and 1995. And I was pushed down the stairs in 77. In 1995, I was tied up and shot at with a 32. And you know, I'm a peaceful guy. I don't fight anybody, but there are a lot of crazy people out there. 77, the police did great work. We put the guy away who was out on good behavior from Walpole. And in 1995, I hope he hasn't killed somebody since. So, you know, this is it. I want police to do police work. I don't want drugs in our town. I want full reporting as to what's going on. It needs to be like we're talking about a connection to the people. Let them know crime's happening, where it's happening. Be aware. You know, lock your cars, lock your doors. Don't, you know, there's a lot of things that can be done here that don't take more funds than you already have. And as far as an ambulance service, I think that the funds for that that's not a dramatic increase in taxes. If in fact nothing could be revised in the department, that's why department heads to me are very important, that they get the higher pay. They have to live, you know, responsibly within that. You know, if a police vehicle breaks down, you got to replace the vehicle. If, you know, we're losing people because we're not responding to an emergency, that's on us. You know, you have to make that work. And that's why I say safety is my priority. And we got to control the budget. And that's where department heads come in. And you have to be responsible, the head of department. And we just added, about a month ago, we had 5 new police coming on duty, I believe. So we have done it. It's appropriated. I want to utilize those so that the kids are safe, the teachers are safe. You know, that we have a safe town, that everyone says, "Oh, Natick is the safest town in Massachusetts." That's where I'm coming from on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, again,
Thank you.
thank you very much for spending the time with us. I feel we learned a lot, and best of luck. And
thank you so much.
Everybody go vote tomorrow.
I appreciate all of you that let me have this opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.